We all tell ourselves stories. Stories about who we are, what happened to us, how it changed us. Stories about what we deserve. Now, some of those stories can give us strength to persevere in the face of adversity. But others trap us. They turn into an anchor that drags us down into despair, into a place where no light nor hope exists. And the irony is, we cling on to them like a lifeline, even when they're slowly killing us. And this is the paradox of the stories we tell. They can either free us or they can enslave us. Let's look within ourselves. Let's say we were raised by cold and distant parents and eventually came to the realization that we had the intrinsic belief that we were undeserving of love. After all, if the two people who more than anyone else that were supposed to care for us didn't, how could we be expected to find such love not only within ourselves, but also in others? And such belief is the accumulation of situations and scenarios that, by repeating themselves, allowed us, even as children, to detect a pattern and infer a result. And that accumulation and result is the stories we tell ourselves. The story of how we are not deserving of love because our parents never picked us up from school. The story of how we are such a burden because every time we got hurt, instead of being comforted and cared for, we were scolded because we were being too much. The patterns, you see, turn into a belief, and the belief turns into a story that we play in the depth of our psyche over and over and over again. I myself fell prey to such things in quite a meta way, if you would like. I told myself that only by telling others another version of my story could I be saved. I will soon be dedicating an entire series on the topic, but my story was that my film would save me. If only I could write it, if only I could film it, if only I could finish it, if only I could premiere it at the festival, then everything would change. Life would go back to normal. The enemy would be vanquished and peace would return to the land. But that was fantasy, disguised as prophecy, and one that nearly killed me. Because with effect, true became false and lies became truth. Why do we do this to ourselves? Why do we tell stories that hurt us? Well, I can think of 4 main reasons. Number 1 is protection. Sometimes the false story is like an armor around ourselves. If failure is a part of us, if being unlovable is fundamentally who we are, then the heartbreak and the disappointment can be numbed. Number 2, which is directly tied to number 1, is comfort. We find solace, but also identity in the story we tell ourselves, and so we avoid facing reality. By dogmatically accepting the story, we become blind to the truth and comfortable with the lies. Number 3 is control. Sometimes the false story allows us to feel the illusion of control. After all, if we can narrate our own disaster with confidence, then we think there will be no surprises when another flood comes crashing down. And number 4 is performance. We tell those stories to others not because they're true, but because they make us appear strong, powerful, brave, tragic, sad. We would rather perform a false story than reveal the terrifying truth of who we really are. And sometimes the even scarier truth that we don't know who we really are. All of these stories are fully structured narratives. They have a beginning, a middle, and an inevitable end. And once they are told enough times, they start feeling like the truth. And eventually, and without fail, that truth becomes our reality. Now, the good news is Stories can be rewritten. Reality can be altered. Unfortunately, the bad news is only we get to do that for ourselves. So basically, it's in our hands. Because you see, stories only become prisons when they go unchallenged. When fantasy is confronted with reality. The moment we look the story in the eye and compare it to the real, messy truth, it loses its power over us. The only pure stories are the authentic ones. They're not engineered, they're not curated. They rise out of the human soul as its most intrinsic expression. And those stories, they don't chain us, they reveal us. The stories we tell can either bind us or set us free. But freedom only comes when we dare to confront our fantasy with reality and choose authenticity over performance. Only then can we really tell the stories that matter.